Hello, and welcome back. Before we begin, let me ask you one simple question. Have you ever replayed the same 5 minutes of a conversation for 3 hours straight? If yes, you already know the enemy we are talking about today. Overthinking. It does not scream. It does not announce itself. It just sits quietly behind your eyes, replaying, rewinding, and repeating until your whole day is gone and you never even left your room. Most people believe they are just thinking carefully. They believe they are being responsible, cautious, smart. But there is a difference between thinking and drowning. And overthinking is drowning while pretending to swim. Look at the world around you right now. It is loud, it is fast, it never stops talking to you. You wake up, and before your feet even touch the floor, your phone has already shown you 50 opinions, 100 comparisons, and 1,000 reasons to doubt yourself. You said one sentence yesterday, and now you are wondering if it sounded strange. You have an idea today, and before you even write it down, your mind is already listing 10 ways it could fail. This is the trap. Overthinking does not just waste your time. It steals your energy. It steals your sleep. It steals your confidence. And slowly, quietly, it steals your life. You wanted to message that person, but you overthought it, so you never sent it. You wanted to start that small business, but you overthought it, so you never opened the doors. You wanted to speak up in that meeting, but you overthought it, so you stayed silent. And while you were busy thinking, life kept moving without you. Why does this happen to us? Because overthinking pretends to be safety. Your mind whispers, if I just think about this a little more, I will find the perfect answer, and then nothing bad can happen. But life was never built that way. Life does not wait for perfect answers. Life asks you to choose, to move, to act, even when you are unsure. And the moment you stop moving to search for certainty, you fall into the trap. Think about how many small moments this has already stolen from you. A funny idea you never posted because you imagined every possible negative comment before you even typed the first word. A question you never asked in class because you were sure it would sound foolish. A goodbye you never said properly because you were too busy rehearsing the perfect sentence in your head, and the moment passed before you opened your mouth. Overthinking does not just take your time. It takes your voice, your courage, and slowly, without you noticing, it takes your identity too. Here is something worth sitting with for a moment. Overthinking often feels like responsibility. It disguises itself as care, as diligence, as being a thoughtful person. But there is a very simple test to tell the difference between healthy thinking and overthinking. Healthy thinking leads somewhere. It ends in a decision, an action, a next step. Overthinking leads nowhere. It just circles the same 3 or 4 worries again and again, wearing a new outfit each time, but never actually taking you forward. If you have been thinking about the same problem for hours, or days, or weeks, and you are no closer to peace than when you started, that is not careful thinking anymore. That is a loop, and loops do not need more thinking. They need a way out. So today, we are not going to give you weak advice like, just relax, or don't worry so much. That never works, and you know it. Instead, we are going to walk through real, practical, powerful ways to break free from this mental prison, one thought at a time. And along the way, you will also strengthen your English, because here at WisdomLoom English, we believe healing your mind and growing your language can happen at the same time. Let's begin. Point 1. Your brain is not always telling you the truth. Here is something almost nobody tells you. Your brain is not designed to make you feel calm. It is designed to keep you alive. That means it is always searching for danger, even in places where danger does not exist. So when someone doesn't text back quickly, your brain doesn't say, "They are probably busy." It says, "Something is wrong. You did something wrong. They are upset with you." This is not truth. This is your ancient survival system working overtime in a modern world that does not need it anymore. Let me share a short story with you. There was a young sailor named Elias who was once caught in heavy fog at sea. He could not see the shore, but he could hear waves crashing against rocks somewhere close. Panicked, he steered hard to the left, convinced the rocks were right beside him. He fought the wheel for almost an hour, exhausted, terrified, certain that death was seconds away. When the fog finally lifted, he realized the rocks were nearly a mile away. The sound had traveled far across the water, but his fear had made it feel close enough to touch. He had spent an hour fighting a danger that was never actually near him. This is exactly what overthinking does. It takes a small, distant sound of worry and makes it feel like it's about to crash into you right now. But most of the time, like Elias, you are fighting something that is much farther away than it feels. The first step to freedom is simple, but powerful. Stop believing every single thought your mind hands you. A thought is not proof. A feeling is not fact. When you learn to question your fear instead of obeying it instantly, you take your power back. Here is a question you can ask yourself the next time a heavy thought arrives. Would this thought hold up in a courtroom? If you had to bring evidence, real, solid evidence, would you actually be able to prove it? Most of the time, the honest answer is no. You have a feeling, not a fact. You have a guess, dressed up to look like certainty. And once you see it that way, the thought loses much of its power over you, because you can no longer mistake it for the truth. Point 2. Catch the small spark before it becomes a fire. Overthinking rarely arrives as one giant wave. It starts small, like a single spark. One quiet thought slips in. You ignore it, so it grows a little louder. You ignore it again, and now it has a full voice shouting inside your skull. By the time you notice, you're not dealing with one thought anymore. You're dealing with an entire storm. The trick is learning to catch the spark early, before it becomes a wildfire. The instant you notice your mind circling the same worry again and again, say clearly to yourself, "This thought is not helping me right now. I see what you're doing." That one sentence works like water on a small flame before it can spread. Think about this common scene. You send a message to a friend. An hour passes with no reply. Thought 1, maybe they're driving. Thought 2, maybe they're annoyed with you. Thought 3, maybe you said something wrong last week. Thought 4, maybe this friendship is falling apart. By thought 5, you feel genuine sadness, even panic. Then, 20 minutes later, they reply, "Sorry, my phone died." All that suffering, over nothing. The spark was never a real fire. You just let it burn for far too long before you noticed. Notice the pattern in that example. Each thought was slightly worse than the one before it. That is how overthinking builds momentum, one small exaggeration stacked on top of another, until the story in your head has almost nothing left in common with reality. Catching the very first thought, the smallest one, before it has a chance to multiply, is far easier than trying to calm your mind after it has already built an entire tower of worry. So the next time you notice the very first spark, treat it like a small kitchen fire. Deal with it immediately, calmly, before it needs a fire truck. Point 3. Let your thoughts out of your head and onto paper. Imagine filling a glass with water and never stopping. Eventually, it spills everywhere. Your mind works exactly the same way. When thoughts stay locked inside without release, they pile on top of each other until you feel a heaviness you cannot explain. So here is a simple, powerful solution. Get a notebook, or even just a blank page on your phone, and write down exactly what is spinning in your head. Not for anyone else to read, not to sound smart or organized, just for you. Write what is bothering you, why it feels important, what you're afraid might happen. Something strange happens when thoughts move from your mind onto paper. They lose their grip on you. What felt enormous inside your head often looks small and manageable once it's written in front of your eyes. This isn't just a writing exercise. It's a release valve for pressure that has nowhere else to go. There is a reason this works so well. Inside your head, thoughts have no edges. They blend into each other, one worry sliding into the next, until everything feels connected and overwhelming. But a sentence on paper has a beginning and an end. It takes up a fixed amount of space. It cannot expand infinitely the way a thought in your mind can. When you force a swirling feeling into written words, you are quietly telling your brain, this worry is not endless. It fits on this line, and now I can look at it clearly instead of being lost inside it. Point 4. What if? Is a question about a world that doesn't exist. Most overthinking begins with two dangerous little words. What if? What if I mess this up? What if they laugh at me? What if I'm not good enough? What if everything falls apart? These questions drag you into a future that has not happened and may never happen at all, yet your body reacts as if it's happening right now. Picture a young man preparing to give his very first presentation at work. His mind starts firing warnings. What if my voice shakes? What if I forget everything? What if my coworkers think I'm incompetent? Notice something important here. None of this has actually happened. He hasn't even walked into the room yet, but inside his head, he has already failed the presentation 10 different ways. So he hesitates, he stumbles, his confidence weakens before he even opens his mouth, all because of a future his own mind invented. What if is not a fact. It is not your destiny. It is fear, simply wearing the costume of a question. The moment you notice yourself asking it, gently remind yourself, this hasn't happened, and it might never happen at all. There is a small but powerful shift you can practice here. Every time your mind says, what if? Try replacing it with even if. What if I forget my words becomes even if I forget my words, I can pause, smile, and continue. What if they judge me becomes even if someone judges me, their opinion does not decide my worth. Notice the difference. What if leaves you frozen, staring into an unknown future with fear. Even if hands you back a plan, a sense of control, a reason to keep moving instead of standing still. Point 5. Say the thought out loud and watch it shrink. Stay with me, because this next part might be one of the simplest tricks that actually works. Overthinking survives because it stays hidden, playing on repeat silently in your mind, feeling enormous and unstoppable. But there's a strange trick that weakens its power instantly. Speak the thought out loud. Try it. Actually say the words. I think everyone at that party thought I was boring. Now listen to how that sentence sounds once it leaves your mouth. Suddenly it feels smaller, even a little silly. That's because your emotional mind creates the thought, but your logical mind processes your own voice. When you hear yourself say it, you can examine it, instead of just feeling crushed by it. Try this simple pattern next time. Speak the fear out loud. Then ask yourself honestly, is this really as serious as it feels? More often than not, the answer is no. If you feel awkward talking to yourself out loud, you are not alone, and you are not doing anything strange. This is actually a technique used by athletes, public speakers, and even therapists, because the simple act of vocalizing a thought forces your brain to organize it into language your logical mind can examine. A racing, chaotic feeling becomes a single, clear sentence you can look at from the outside, instead of something you are trapped inside of. Point 6. Chasing perfect is how dreams quietly die. One of the biggest hidden reasons behind overthinking is the desperate need to be perfect. We want the perfect words, the perfect plan, the perfect moment. So instead of doing anything, we do nothing, waiting for a right time that never actually comes. Think of a young woman who dreams of teaching an online cooking class. She has the recipes, the passion, the knowledge, but her mind keeps whispering, "What if my kitchen isn't fancy enough? What if my camera quality isn't professional? What if people think my accent sounds strange?" So she waits. Weeks pass, months pass, a year passes, and her dream is still sitting untouched in her notebook, because she was waiting to become flawless before she would allow herself to start. Here's the truth nobody says loudly enough. People don't fall in love with perfect. They fall in love with real effort, real honesty, real growth in front of their eyes. Nobody became excellent by waiting for perfection. They became excellent by starting messy and improving along the way. Choose progress. Done is always better than perfect. Think of the first video you ever watched from a creator you now admire. If you go back far enough, it was probably a little rough, a little awkward, far from polished. You did not fall in love with them because their very first attempt was flawless. You fell in love with them because they kept showing up, kept improving, kept becoming better in front of you. That is what people actually connect with. Not perfection frozen at the finish line, but honest growth happening in real time. Point 7. Move your body to interrupt your mind. When a heavy thought grabs you, your first instinct is to sit still and think it through. But thinking harder rarely brings clarity. It usually just brings exhaustion. Overthinking isn't a sign of intelligence. It's a sign of mental traffic jam. And the longer you sit in that traffic, the more stuck you feel. Here's something powerful to remember. Your body and your mind are deeply connected. When you overthink, your shoulders tighten, your breathing becomes shallow, your whole body freezes, as if bracing for danger. So the fastest way out is surprisingly simple. Move. Stand up and walk around the block. Do 10 jumping jacks. Wash the dishes. Stretch your arms toward the ceiling. It sounds too simple to work, but motion genuinely interrupts emotion. When your body moves, your focus shifts, your breathing deepens, and slowly, your racing mind begins to settle. Don't sit there and sink. Stand up and break the pattern. Picture two people dealing with the exact same stressful news. The first stays curled up on the couch, replaying the situation over and over, feeling worse with every passing minute. The second gets up, puts on shoes, and takes a short walk outside. They are not smiling by the end of the walk, and the problem has not disappeared, but something has shifted. Their chest feels less tight. Their thoughts feel less urgent. That is the quiet power of movement. It does not solve the problem for you, but it gives your mind enough space to stop drowning in it. Point 8. Replace endless thinking with one tiny action. Overthinking loves confusion. It feeds on your hesitation and whispers, "You need more time. You're not ready yet. Think a little longer." But here's the truth. You don't need more thinking. You need momentum. Say you want to start speaking a new language out loud. Your mind lists every possible embarrassment. What if I mispronounce a word? What if someone laughs? So you prepare and prepare and prepare, and somehow you never actually speak. Instead, try this. Forget the big leap and take one tiny step. Say a single sentence out loud, right now, to no one but yourself. Record one 30-second voice note. Write one line in a journal. One tiny action carries more power than 1,000 perfect plans, because action teaches your brain something thinking never can. We are safe to move forward. Think of momentum like pushing a heavy cart. The very first push is always the hardest, because the cart is standing completely still, and all its weight resists you. But the second push is easier than the first. The third is easier still. Soon the cart is rolling almost on its own. Your mind works exactly the same way. The first tiny action, even something as small as one spoken sentence, is the hardest part. Everything after that becomes lighter, because you are no longer starting from a standstill. You are already in motion. Point 9. Give yourself a deadline for your decisions. Many of us believe that waiting longer brings more clarity. So when we feel unsure, we delay and delay and delay, hoping the right feeling will eventually arrive. But often time doesn't bring peace, it brings more confusion. A simple question like, "Should I apply for this job?" can turn into 3 hours of drafting and deleting messages, leaving you more anxious than when you started. The fix is refreshingly simple. Set yourself a time limit. Tell yourself, I have 10 minutes to decide, and then I move forward, no matter what. This isn't carelessness, it's protection from your own spiraling mind. Even a decision you're only 70% sure about brings far more peace than an perfect decision you spent 3 sleepless nights overthinking. Choose, move, and adjust later if you need to. Don't sit in the fire hoping the fear disappears on its own. It helps to remember that very few decisions in life are truly permanent. Most choices can be adjusted, corrected, or changed later if they turn out to be wrong. Yet overthinkers often treat every decision as if it were carved in stone, which is exactly why deciding feels so unbearably heavy. The moment you remind yourself, I can always adjust this later, the pressure softens, and a decision that once felt impossible suddenly feels manageable again. Point 10. Focus only on what is actually yours to control. So much overthinking comes from trying to control things that were never yours to control in the first place. Other people's opinions, other people's choices, the unpredictable future. You cannot control what someone else thinks about you, whether they stay in your life or leave, or what tomorrow holds. So why exhaust yourself fighting for control you were never going to have? Instead, redirect all that energy toward what is actually within your reach. Your actions, your effort, your responses, your habits. If you sent a message and received no reply, you cannot control their mood or their schedule. But you can control what you do next. You can breathe, take a walk, focus on your own tasks. Remember this simple rule. If something is outside your control, it deserves to be outside your stress too. Try drawing an imaginary line down the middle of a page in your mind. On one side, write everything you cannot control. Other people's thoughts, the weather, the past, tomorrow's outcome. On the other side, write what you can control, your effort today, your kindness, your next small step. Every time you catch yourself spiraling, ask which side of that line your worry belongs to. If it's on the side you cannot control, that is your signal to gently let it go and return your energy to the side that is actually yours. Point 11. You were never meant to be liked by everyone. A massive amount of overthinking comes from worrying too much about what other people think of us. Did I say something weird? Do they secretly dislike me? Why wasn't I invited? This pain feels real because every human being craves acceptance. But here's a truth that quietly sets you free. Not everyone will like you, and that is completely fine. Even the kindest, most talented people alive have someone who doesn't care for them. You were never here to please every single person you meet. The moment you accept this, something shifts inside you. You stop shrinking your personality to fit into every room. You stop saying yes when your heart is screaming no. You finally start breathing again, because you're no longer performing for an audience that was never going to clap for everyone anyway. You don't need the whole world to like you. You only need to genuinely like the person you're becoming. Think about the people you personally admire most. Even they, without question, have someone somewhere who dislikes them, misunderstands them, or simply doesn't connect with their personality. That has never stopped them from living fully, from creating, from speaking their truth. Their peace was never dependent on being liked by every single person who crossed their path, and yours does not have to be either. The energy you spend trying to win over someone who was never going to like you anyway is energy stolen from people who already do. Point 12. Trust the facts, not just the feeling. Overthinkers often trust their emotions far more than the actual evidence in front of them. They feel nervous, so they assume disaster is coming. They feel a flicker of guilt, so they assume they must have done something wrong. But feelings are signals, not verified truth. Picture a student finishing a difficult English-speaking exam. She walks out feeling awful, convinced she failed completely. But the facts tell a different story. She answered almost every question, used strong vocabulary, and kept speaking confidently, even after a small mistake. The feeling said failure. The facts said success. When panic rises, pause and ask yourself honestly, what do I actually know for certain here, separate from how I feel? That single question can save you hours, sometimes days, of unnecessary suffering. Try keeping two separate columns in your mind whenever anxiety strikes. In one column, place your feelings. I feel embarrassed. I feel anxious. I feel like a failure. In the other column, place only what you can actually verify. I finished the task. I showed up on time. I answered most of the questions. Feelings deserve to be acknowledged. They are real and valid, but they should never be mistaken for verified facts. Learning to separate the two is one of the most practical skills you can build against overthinking. Point 13. Asking for help is strength, not weakness. Overthinking is often a silent, private battle. On the outside, you smile and say, I'm fine. On the inside, you're replaying every conversation, questioning your worth, carrying a storm that nobody else can see. And so often, we stay silent because we think, they won't understand, or I should just handle this myself. But here is something worth remembering deeply. Needing support does not make you weak. It makes you human. Even the strongest, most successful people you admire have moments where they needed someone else's hand to hold. Imagine walking through an unfamiliar forest, completely lost. When you spot someone nearby who clearly knows the path, would you stay silent out of pride, or would you simply ask, can you help me find my way? Reaching out for help is not defeat, it is wisdom. So if the noise inside your head has become too loud to carry alone, speak to someone. A friend, a family member, a mentor, anyone willing to listen. You are not broken. You are simply carrying too much alone, and it's time to put some of that weight down. And even if, right now, it feels like no one around you would understand, please hear this clearly. You are not as alone as your mind wants you to believe. Somewhere, Someone has felt exactly what you are feeling tonight, and they made it through to the other side. So can you. Asking for a hand does not shrink you. It simply means you value your own future enough to not carry the whole weight by yourself. So here we are. 13 honest, practical ways to quiet the noise inside your mind. Not shallow tips, but real tools you can actually use starting today. And by watching this entire video, you haven't just learned about overthinking. You've taken a real step toward understanding your own mind a little better. Remember this: your thoughts are not always facts. Your fears are not a preview of your future. Your mind can be trained, guided, and calmed, one small choice at a time. And here at WisdomLoom English, this is exactly what we do. We help you grow your English while growing your mindset, one honest lesson at a time. You don't have to fix everything today. You don't have to master all 13 points at once. Pick just one, the one that spoke to you the loudest, and practice it this week. Small, steady change always outlasts a big burst of motivation that fades by Friday. Progress here is not measured in giant leaps. It's measured in the quiet decision to try again tomorrow, even after a difficult day. If this video helped you feel even a little lighter, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Leave a comment and tell us which point spoke to you the most. And if you want more videos like this, ones that build both your language skills and your inner peace, join our community at WisdomLoom English and hit subscribe so you never miss the next one. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for choosing growth over silence. You are not your overthinking. This is your beginning.